at the present moment, and there's quite a long gap between them. There's something like 20 seconds between Bruno Giacomelli, who was, or still is, in 7th position. No, he's up into 6th position, or getting very close to it. We're checking now with the situation with Niki Lauda. Well, there we are. There's the confirmation. 15 Prost leads, 27 Tambay second, 5 Piquet in 3rd position, Cheever number 16 in 4th place, 1 Rosberg and 2 Lafitte, and there is Patrick Tambay. He is on his 36th lap in this 41 lap race, and I was saying that he had won at San Marino. He was 4th in Monaco last weekend and is in 3rd position in the World Championship. Well, if they finish in the positions that they're in now, and subject to whether or not this alleged possible protest by the Brabham team about the Renaults happening, it would mean that Prost would take the lead in the World Championship, and it's going to be a very close thing for 2nd place between Piquet and Tambay. There would only be 2 points in it, with Piquet on 25 and Tambay on 23. So the World Championship is very much alive. And as we look at Prost coming down to complete his 36th lap, in fact he's now done it, let us not forget that there is a very important Constructors' Championship at the 2, which is even closer. Ferrari leading Renault by 2 points, and now Prost is coming up to challenge Elio De Angelis, who is in 9th position in the turbocharged Renault Power John Player Special, and Prost is catching him as they come up to Les Combes and going through. The Renault handles very, very much better than the JPS. In fact, Elio De Angelis has had another rather miserable weekend, not at all happy with the handling of his car. And Prost is away. He's on his 37th lap now. And on that 37th lap, as we look at Alain Prost taking on a replay Elio De Angelis, and on his way to his 7th Grand Prix win in his career. And he only started in Formula One in 1980 when he drove for McLaren, got 5 points in the World Championship in his first year, and then moved on to Renault in 1981. This diminutive Frenchman, who looks as though he really wouldn't have the strength to handle a Grand Prix car. And my goodness, he has, and his wiry body has obviously got an enormous amount of stamina, because he's running on without any problem at all. And this year, unlike last year, when the Renaults had a lot of turbocharger problems and blew them, they seem to have overcome them this year, and it looks as though Prost, in a reliable Renault, is really on his way to another Grand Prix win on lap 37 coming down to the chicane. And that would, of course, give Renault the lead in the Constructors' Championship, subject to all the other things I've been hypothesising about.
Well, whatever trouble Piquet's in, it's obviously serious enough, slowing him down enough for Eddie Cheever to now be catching him pretty quickly, so expect Cheever to shortly be challenging for Piquet's 3rd place. So that'll come as some big disappointment for Piquet, but he will then have a reasonable cushion over Keke Rosberg. He's now only 2 seconds in front of Eddie Cheever, but then there's a gap of some 15 seconds to Keke Rosberg. So one must anticipate probably that he's not going to be able to stay ahead of Cheever for the remainder of the race, but he may well be able to fend off Rosberg, just depending on whether his trouble gets any worse or not.
Piquet and Cheever down to La Source together at the end of their 37th lap. Piquet in 3rd position, Cheever in 4th. And let's see how the young American, Eddie Cheever, in car number 16, 25 years old from Monte Carlo, in his 45th Grand Prix, deals with the 1981 world champion Nelson Piquet. On the right, the Brabham BMW, and past him, and surely Piquet's in real trouble, goes Eddie Cheever.
Well, he maybe have an engine cut-out problem through through left-handers or something. I was thinking maybe he's in brake trouble, because his engine sounded fine past us, and he went through Eau Rouge very quickly. So he's got some other problem. You see, he slowed right down there and just sailed straight past him. But he's not in the braking zone, but there was a slight left-hand kink, so it's very difficult to tell from our little perches.
Well, whatever the reason, there is the situation with Eddie Cheever, who, as I've said before, is on his fourth constructor since he moved to Formula One, with Nelson Piquet closing up now, and Eddie Cheever, who drove for Osella and then Tyrrell and then Ligier and now Renault. And Nelson Piquet seems to have got a fresh lease of life. He's right up close with the Renault. It looks to me as though it's some sort of a power problem, as James said, because the Brabham, which handles extremely well, has closed right up to the Renault on the tight swerves. And now you can see that on this drag up to the chicane, Eddie Cheever put his foot down and really pulled away from the Brabham BMW of Nelson Piquet, and they're coming up to the chicane at the end of their 38th lap, with Prost still in the lead, with Tournbay second, with now Eddie Cheever there in third position, with now Nelson Piquet in the background in the Brabham. There he is in fourth position. In fifth position it's still Keke Rosberg. In sixth place it's Jacques Lafitte. Seventh and eighth the two Tolmans of Giacomelli and Warwick. Ninth is Elio De Angelis, who has been lapped, of course. 10th is Johnny Cecotto in the Theodore. 11th is Mark Sura. 12th is Danny Sullivan. And 13th is Brazil. 14th is Alboreto. And then those are the 14 competitors out of the 26 who started this race who are still in the running. Because out of the race have gone Niki Lauda, Nigel Mansell, De Cesaris, Arnoux, Fabi and Patrese, of course. So Alain Prost, looking steady and smooth as ever. He is on his 39th 4.3 mile lap now, and it looks as though it's going to be another Renault victory, and Renaults have been driven to victory since they came into Grand Prix racing in 1977 with the first turbocharged car in the modern Grand Prix racing. They've been taken to victory by Jean-Pierre Jabouille, who won the French Grand Prix at Dijon, by René Arnoux several times. There you see 2 laps to go. That's the sign there, and Alain Prost will have seated himself. And of course Renaults have been driven to victory by the man you're looking at in the background now, Alain Prost. 39 laps completed, down to and round La Source, on his way to Eau Rouge, up to the Tyrrell, which he passes on the Tyrrell's right, on your left. Well, Renault's first and third, but is this protest going to happen? We have every reason to believe it does. If it happens, what will be the result? Because you can bet, particularly if the Renaults have finished first and third, that there will be a bitter, contentious and highly scientific wrangle about whether or not now maybe we'll look at the back of the car between the wheels where you can see the under tray. It's in black there, but you can see the under tray tips up, and Renault said that that was to allow the exhaust pipes to be repositioned and not to overheat the tires, which they said were running some 10 degrees hotter than they should do. But Brabham are saying, it is said, this gives you a boundary layer advantage with the airflow. It's all terribly scientific, and I don't pretend to understand it in detail myself, but I don't believe that Brabham would make a protest unless they thought they got a very good chance of making it stick. But now, on lap 40, the leader, Alain Prost, behind him, and far enough behind him not to be able to challenge him for victory in the Belgian Grand Prix unless something happens to Prost's car, is Patrick Tournbay in the Ferrari on his way to 6 points, question mark 9 points. Third position Cheever, fourth position Piquet, fifth position Rosberg, sixth position Lafitte. Into the chicane comes the race leader for the 40th time in this 41 lap race, He accelerates away up the